Hey, it's Joshua. I cut grass, and it is November the 11th, 2020. Been a rough year. Wow. I'm about 10:15 in the morning, Indiana time, and I want to jump on today. I want to talk about something briefly, just some additional advice or perspectives I can share with people about customers and one-time small favors that can create problems. The favors themselves and the customers and the stress that it can create on your schedule, on your relationship, and on you in general. But real quick, if you haven't already, consider subscribing to my page if you can. You can see I don't really have a lot of subscribers, but I'm trying to help as many people as I can, and hopefully in some fashion this information helps you. And so if you know somebody in the business or in another business that you think that this could help, maybe you would share it with them and ask them to subscribe. And what I like to always stress is everything isn't, people are going to take things differently. And there's a phone call I'm getting right there. We're going to decline that. People are going to take things differently. So what might work for me and what I might like to do and approach and handle, issues certain ways, you might be the complete opposite. And maybe this video and this information will help strengthen your perspective, or maybe it will help you to see it from a different way. And ultimately, whatever the case is, help you to be more efficient and give you less drama and stress in your business. So small favors. This is something that really isn't black and white, so to speak. It's not right or wrong. It's not yes or no. It's got a shade of gray. So let's say, for example, you're out mowing one of your customers' property and they've got a small limb. They're like, hey, man, can you haul this away for me? It's just sitting there, whatever. And, they ask you to do it as a favor and you don't charge them for it. Not a big deal in the long run. You might even think, hey, it's good customer service. And there's a debate that can be said about that, but I'm not here to have that right now. I'm just saying that, hey, you agree to do a small favor for a customer, and in doing so, you haul away a limb, and maybe the customer tells more people about you. That's certainly possible. But here's what I find more times than not when I do this kind of stuff for a customer. The next time I'm mowing, or 2 times later, they've got another something that needs to be hauled. Or, hey, while you're here real quick, can you trim the bushes? And, there are only a couple of bushes out front. That seems innocent and is small enough and it's not a big deal. But ultimately, the problem that it creates is, number one, it takes more time and resources for you. And that's important because as your business grows, your freedom and flexibility is going to shrink, okay? When you get started almost, you're starving for business. You're not necessarily desperate. I mean, maybe you are. Maybe you need to put food on the table right now, or maybe you got to pay that child support because, the court is against, is on your back, or maybe you're behind on rent like a lot of people are right now, or your mortgage because of COVID-19. Who knows what the case may be? But, you're a little able and willing to do a little more up front. And the problem that starts to happen is that person asks for one favor, they ask for another here, and it can start to snowball. And then you create a situation where they expect that you're going to do whatever. And they may not be paying you for it. And you get to the point where you legitimately can't do it. Let's use an example. You're driving around in your truck with your trailer, and you've got a fixed amount of space in the back of that truck. Now, if I do stuff like this, I almost immediately go to a farm to dump the debris. But let's say that I don't have the ability to do that. That limb is rolling around with me in the truck until I get to a place where I can dump it. It's taking up space. It's using my workspace. It's adding weight to the vehicle, which is decreasing fuel mileage. And you got to think about that kind of stuff. If you got a bunch of tools that you don't use that are 75, 80, 100 pounds, get them out of the truck. You're just literally hauling them around for nothing. Okay, there are some tools you got to have. You got to have a jack, right? You got to have an air compressor, not necessarily an air compressor, but something that you can air up the tires with, for example. There are things that you have to have, but there are things that you don't have to have in the truck. And a lot of guys, let that stuff just sit around, and they, by the end of the season, you think about how much gas they burn for that extra weight. But back onto that customer, I would just say this, consider this. I always consider charging for my time. I let my customers know up front, I'm happy to help you with whatever it is, okay? Let me give you an example where I didn't do this, and it happened this year, having been in business now since 2008. Sometimes I make stupid mistakes that I advise people not to do. Guy has me cut the grass. He's been having me cut the grass the last few years. He's in my neighborhood. I like him. Hey, this time I want you to go ahead and turn and rake the mulch. Can you do that for me? Yeah, okay, I do it. takes 10, 15, 25 minutes, whatever. Do I get paid extra for it? Nope. Next time, leaves are falling. Hey, can you go ahead and mow the grass and round up the leaves while you're at it? No, I can't do that. Or yes, I can, but it's going to cost X. The best example I can give of the point that I'm trying to get at is understanding that, yes, in some ways and in some fashion, there are some customers that it's worth you doing, especially if they network a lot for you. Even then, it comes to a point where you have to back off on the freebies, so to speak. But let's say you've got that brother-in-law or that cousin or that friend that maybe one time called you for a loan. They were hard up and needed $200 for whatever reason. And you give it to them. And now all of a sudden, every time that they are short on money, they think that you're a bank running 0 points, right? So no interest. And then eventually maybe they burn you. We all have bad things that happen in life. We all have hard times. The point of this advice that I'm trying to share with you today is just to help protect you and to give you some things to consider. I do a lot of work for realtors in season. They get homes that are on the market and they've got 2 days before a showing and they want a photographer to come by 2 days in the morning before the afternoon showing, and they, can you help me tomorrow? Are you able to do mulch? I need 15 yards of mulch, or oftentimes they don't know what they need, so I got to go look at it. And, you make money on those jobs. They're certainly worth it. And helping them, is going to help you because they're going to tell more people about it. So, yeah, I get over there and I do the job and I drop what I'm doing. Those types of relationships and those types of scenarios, obviously, when you have the ability to manipulate your schedule, it certainly helps. But there are others that you just have to stop. I have friends that I do free work for to help them, but I can't always do it. I just can't. There are some times of the year that I can't for various reasons. Right now, I'm recovering from a surgery I had. I also, on a separate issue, slipped 2 discs a couple weeks ago. That put me down. And if you haven't done that before, it's rough. Hopefully you don't ever have to deal with it, but oftentimes people in this industry do. But there's some things as a result that I can't do. I can't work, and I have to tell customers, I can't do this. About a year ago, I cut way back on leaf removal service. It's just not profitable. It's not profitable. We do them oftentimes in the spring because it usually ends up in a season commitment from the customer. But in the fall even, and sometimes it can in the fall, but in the fall, there's just no real profit in it. It's not really worth doing. And so I'm not able to do it. So starting last year, I started cutting back because we don't make any money. And I don't like telling people no. So I just have to tell people oftentimes, hey, I don't have the availability right now. I'm overburdened. I don't want to commit and tell you yes and then not be able to come out and do it and do you an ultimate disservice. Understanding that they're probably going to call someone else who might get their lawn work, for example, or whatever. But the ultimate point in all this I want to get to is respecting your schedule. I would encourage you, based on my experience, there are a few limited exceptions to the rule, but outside of everything else, you don't have friends when it comes to business. Ask yourself this. How many of us know someone that has a friend that, for example, is in insurance or a car dealership? When I go to buy a car, really gives me a friend's discount, who really ultimately does it. I mean, discounts, the reality is, and the freebies don't pay your mortgage. They don't pay your child support. They don't get you out of debt. They don't give you financial security. That's just the truth. I'm not telling you that you can't ever do or you should never do good things for people. I'm just saying, please, for your own good, consider setting expectations up front with customers. When they call for mowing quotes, hey, I charge $40 a week, for example. I'm just using a random example. If you want me to cut it every 2 weeks, it'd be $10 cheaper, so it'd be $70. But understand that in the spring, it may look messy because it's going to be really tall. And that also means in the summer, even when the grass isn't growing, you're going to pay me every 2 weeks because I took on that burden for you and I filled the spot. I turned down other business in that spot, and I communicate that. If it's not in a written contract, it's communicated either in a text message or an email. So later in the season, if they question it, you have something to go back on. Just stay true to yourself. Limit the freebies. Real friends are not going to put you in a position where they expect you to do it. And if they do, they're not a good friend. And your real friends, they do appreciate it. They'll tell you if they really appreciate you. And that's why doing freebies, even for my customers, because my customers often become friends, and not the type of friends that I hang out with, but I might talk with them for a few minutes while I'm out mowing. And that's another thing. Got to limit your time that you do that stuff, because as you grow, 5 minutes extra on one property becomes compounded over the course of the day, which becomes compounded over the course of the week, which ultimately can determine whether or not you get everything done in 1 week. So consider limiting the freebies, charge for your time. Anybody that genuinely respects you and what you do is going to be willing to pay you for it. And they might initially seem offended, but if their employer asks them, hey, come in and work half of a day for free, they would see it differently. I hope that this helps you today. Just an issue I ran into recently with a neighborhood customer of mine that calls me on occasion to mow. Good customer, does networking for me. I really like him a lot, but just started asking for extra things. And I didn't say anything because I wanted to avoid telling him no. And ultimately, I just had to tell him no. So hopefully this helps you. Hit the subscribe button if you wouldn't mind. If you haven't already, maybe share this with somebody else. If you have an idea or a suggestion, comment below if you want to. Thanks. Peace.